Hello, everybody. So I'm going to explain question 2 of this week 1 homework. But let's first start reading the question. So Q & Company's relevant range of production is 17,000 to 26,500 units. When it produces and sells 21,750 units, its average cost per unit are as follows. So we have all the manufacturing cost and selling and administrative expenses. So for requirement 1, well, you can notice that I already started it. It says assume the cost object is units of production. What is the total direct manufacturing cost and what is the total indirect manufacturing cost for the units? Okay, so we're going to focus on the units of production. So the first thing is direct materials per unit is the same number they gave us here, so 780. Direct labor per unit, same thing, 480. And then they calculate automatically that the direct manufacturing cost per unit is 1260. Then the number of units produced and sold, they gave us that number right here, so 21,750. And the total direct manufacturing cost is automatically, so it's multiplying this 21,750 times 1260. Then the variable manufacturing overhead per unit, the number that they gave us is 230. And the fixed manufacturing overhead per unit is 580. Then the indirect manufacturing cost per unit is 810. They're indirect because we know that manufacturing overhead are indirect costs for the units produced. And then we do the same thing. The number of units produced and sold are 21,750, and then they multiply that to get the total indirect manufacturing cost. Then for requirement 2, instead of focusing on the units of production, the cost object in requirement 2 is the manufacturing department. Okay, so all the costs for manufacturing department are direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, both variable and fixed. So the direct materials per unit again is 780. Direct labor per unit is 480. The variable manufacturing overhead per unit is 230. And the fixed manufacturing overhead per unit is 580. Okay, and they calculate automatically what is the total manufacturing cost per unit. Now the number of units produced and sold, again, 21,750, which is right here too. And then the total direct costs are 450 to 25. Now, what are the total indirect costs for the manufacturing department? So if I already said that the manufacturing department, the cost for the manufacturing department is direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, they're all direct costs for the manufacturing department. So even the variable manufacturing, the manufacturing overhead costs are direct for the manufacturing department. These costs are not for the manufacturing department, so we're not going to worry about them. So in this case, the total direct costs are 0. And for requirement 3, the cost object is the sales representatives. So we're only going to focus for the sales expenses, like fixed selling expense. This one, no, and sales commission. So these two. So the sales commission per unit. Oh, first we need to read this really carefully. So assume the cost object is the company's various sales representatives. Furthermore, assume that the company spent 71,775 of its total fixed selling expense on advertising. So this means that, well, they give us the 430 per unit on the fixed selling expense. If you multiply that 430 times 21,750, you're going to have the total fixed selling expense. So from that total selling expense, they took 71,775 on advertising, and the remainder of the total fixed selling expense comprise the fixed portion of the company's sales representatives' compensation. Okay, so from this fixed selling expense, we have advertising and compensation. So the first question is, what is the sales commission per unit? They gave it to us as 180. And then the number of units sold, again, is the 21,750. So if we multiply that, we'll get 39,150. The fixed portion of sales representative compensation, so is this part right here. So what we have to do is get the total fixed expenses, so 430 times 21,750. And then we're going to subtract the advertising portion, which is 71,775. Okay, so this 21,750 is what they spent in compensations right here. And it's interesting that is the same number that of the number of units sold. So the total direct selling expense is the compensation plus the sales commission. So we have compensation and sales commission, and the only one that we have left is the advertising. This one is an indirect cost for the salespeople. So total indirect selling expense, 71,775. That's it. So let's see if it's right.